If you manage commercial real estate in the Texas Gulf Coast, the corridor stretching across Houston, Galveston, and Brazoria, you operate in a uniquely hostile environment. This chart visualizes a harsh statistical reality. On roughly 4 out of every 5 days in this region, the ambient air carries enough moisture to support mold growth without a single pipe bursting or a single roof leaking. Because of this, it is easy to fall into a dangerous trap, assuming that if there is no visible dripping water inside your building, the perimeter is secure. But modern commercial buildings are complex structures. They rely on multi-layered wall assemblies, dropped ceilings, and deep interstitial spaces. If humid air penetrates these exterior walls, it becomes trapped far from its original source. A commercial asset doesn't require a catastrophic flood or hurricane to sustain massive damage. It merely takes a microscopic, invisible breach in that atmospheric perimeter. Long before you see physical damage, your tenants will notice the sensory indicators. You might detect an unexplained musty odor when the lobby fans turn on, or feel a sudden spike in complaints about persistent fatigue, sneezing, and red eyes. When these invisible symptoms are ignored, moisture accumulates in the wall cavities. Soon, microbial growth begins to systematically digest the building's organic infrastructure, like dry wallpaper and wood subflooring, from the inside out. In the state of Texas, this crosses an immediate legal line. Under the Texas Property Code's warranty of habitability, landlords have a statutory obligation to remedy any condition that threatens the physical health or safety of an ordinary tenant. When an invisible biological threat is allowed to fester in the dark, it produces highly visible consequences: severe tenant lawsuits, early lease terminations, and rapidly declining property valuations. So, how exactly does exterior humidity bypass physical walls to create the perfect microenvironment for mold? It often starts with a mechanical failure point known to engineers and property managers as the oversized AC paradox. When a commercial air conditioning unit is too large for its space, it cools the room to the target temperature entirely too fast. Because the thermostat registers success, the compressor shuts off prematurely. This is called short cycling. The system achieves the desired temperature, that because it shuts down early, it completely fails to perform its secondary, equally critical job, extracting moisture from the indoor air. That heavy, moisture-laden air needs a place to bow. It drifts into the dark, enclosed spaces of the building, gathering heavily around the chilled mechanical infrastructure. When that warm, humid air collides with the cold metal surfaces of pipes and HVAC components, the temperature drops below the dew point. The result is instant, hidden condensation. By short cycling, the building's primary defense mechanism, the air conditioning system itself, ends up manufacturing the exact microclimate required for a biological breach. Fungal spores exist naturally in a dormant state everywhere, but the moment they make contact with that fresh condensation pooling in dark closets and wall cavities, they awaken. The spores enter their consumption phase, spreading outward as they digest whatever organic building materials they touch. As species like Stachybotrys, commonly known as black mold, begin to colonize, they produce chemical byproducts called mycotoxins, which hitch a ride on airborne fungal fragments. This schematic traces what happens next. The airborne spores and mycotoxins are sucked into the return vents. The central air system catches these particles and pumps them outward, pushing the contamination through the branching ductwork and into occupied rooms. At this point, the building's climate control units have been transformed into a distribution network, weaponizing the asset's own infrastructure against the tenants working inside. At this stage, you cannot simply send the maintenance team in with a bottle of bleach. Disturbing a dry, hidden colony will aerosolize millions of spores, instantly cross-contaminating the rest of the facility. In Texas, the response to this threat is highly regulated. The Texas Mold Assessment and Remediation Rules dictate that any mold project exceeding 25 contiguous square feet triggers strict state oversight. The foundational legal requirement of these rules is a concept called the separation of duties. First, the state requires a licensed mold assessment consultant. They act as your scout, testing the air, writing the exact technical protocol, and providing final clearance. Second, you must hire a licensed mold remediation contractor. They operate as the strike team, executing the physical demolition, cleaning, and containment. Looking at this flowchart, the state mandate is clear. To eliminate any conflict of interest, the consultant designing the plan and the contractor executing the demolition must operate as entirely separate independent companies. This law enforces absolute operational integrity. It removes the guesswork from the cleanup and legally shields the landlord from incomplete or fraudulent repair work. To navigate this without needlessly destroying walls, professional assessment teams rely on advanced forensic tools like infrared thermography. The camera detects infrared radiation. Because wet building materials undergo evaporative cooling, saturated drywall drops in temperature, showing up as distinct cold pockets on the thermal scan. Identifying these pockets allows the teams to safely remove the contamination and dry the structure, leading to the final objective of the state protocol, the Certificate of Mold Damage Remediation. Signed by your independent consultant, this certificate serves as definitive legal proof that the property has been restored to state standards and is completely safe for human occupancy. A commitment to proactive moisture control and strict adherence to Texas regulatory protocols provides the ultimate fence for preserving the value and safety of a commercial asset.